Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar introducing how climate and nature can be embedded into the curriculum, making use of the National Education Nature Park curriculum resources. Before we introduce ourselves, to help you to get into the Nature Park frame of mind, we are going to share a short curriculum activity with you, and this one has been created by the Poetry Society. So I'm going to start by reading this poem by Yolanda Moran, whose poem was commended in the Tree Poetry Challenge on the Poetry Society's Young Poets Network. I am a tree. I drink the earth's blood, eat the light, host the snow, feel the wind's flow, fledglings' flight. I've heard the night owls hoot, mushrooms balance on my roots, where flowers used to grow. They don't know how far they go. I've seen them all, between my leaves, in autumn fall, in my bark sleeves. Some say I wouldn't understand, though my roots were years in the ground. I've seen hundreds of deaths, chances, last breaths. Soon the sun dies. The moon is born, drifting through polluted skies. Disguised as night, people mourn. Ants march in steady rhythms, same problems, different decisions. I hope I've done justice to that young person's poem, but now we're going to have a go at writing our own poetry from a tree's perspective. So feel free at the end of a school day to grab a piece of scrap paper, and we're going to have a go at writing these sentence stems down the side of your paper. If you wish, you can do it in your head too if you would like. So I'm going to give you 20 seconds to go and grab a piece of paper and a pen if you would like. And remember that nobody is going to see your poem, so please be as candid as you like and as creative as you like as well. Okay, so I want you to begin by imagining that you are a tree. It could be the tree at the bottom of your school playground. It could be the tree near your home, wherever you like. And I want you to think about the tree, okay? And write the first sentence, the stem, I am. And think about yourself as the tree. Are you proud? Have you been there for years? What type of tree are you? Are you a tree that has lots of different features, anything that you like? Next, write down what you see from that tree's perspective. You might want to think about the time of year. You might want to consider the nature, the humans around you. If you are that tree in the school playground, perhaps it's the children running around, perhaps it's the weather. And then write, I hear. And I want you to think about your context. Is it busy? What sort of area are you in? Can you hear children's conversations? Or are you just hearing the elements and the peace and quiet? Now, the sentence stem, I feel. And you can write down emotionally how you feel as a tree. Are you excited about the change of the seasons? Are you feeling emotional? Anything that you like. And finally, I want you to write down your message to humans. Having been years in the ground, what do you want them to do? How do you want them to behave? What is your message to them? I'll give you a moment to finish off your poem. Okay, so we hope you enjoyed the short reflective activity, a chance to be creative, and hopefully that draws you into the nature park. So our resource library contains core content in science, geography and citizenship for all ages, and already hosts learning materials for a range of other subjects too. So our poetry resources like this one are specific to each key stage. They deliver the English curriculum objectives, and they can also be used for broader discussion and reflection, linking knowledge to climate and biodiversity concepts. So now that you've had a little taster of a nature park activity, we'll do our introductions. So, I'm Amy Strachan, the Senior Learning Producer for the Nature Park at the Natural History Museum, and I've been working to build a comprehensive library of resources that can be used within your curriculum. We are fortunate to be joined today by Hina Dave, who is a Senior Curriculum Designer for the Teacher Development Trust and the co-founder of Climate Adapted Pathways for Education, who are leading a Climate-Wise Schools programme supporting school and subject leaders in making significant impact on spearheading climate change education across the country. Behind the scenes today, answering your questions, we have Yogi and Laura from the Natural History Museum team. We have Jen, Sophia and Jenny from project partners, the Royal Horticultural Society. The Q&A will be running throughout the webinar, so do please send us questions, especially as these help us to update our FAQs with useful information. Anything that we don't get to will be added to our FAQs, and you can also email us at hello@educationnaturepark.org.uk. So let's start with the overall aim. If you've already been to one of our webinars before, this is a short review of the programme, and it will be a refresher to you. But if you're new to the platform, before we talk about the curriculum in more detail, here's a brief summary for the context. So the overall aim of the National Education Nature Park is to make it possible for every child and young person in England to have the opportunity to develop a meaningful connection to nature and to understand the threats that nature and the environment are facing, but really importantly, to feel able to do something about it. All of our lives are dependent on the healthy functioning of nature and ecosystems, but we live in one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world. Climate change and loss of nature are inextricably linked, both in terms of their causes and their solutions. An independent global review on the economics of biodiversity led by Professor Dasgupta, you might have already read it, highlighted the importance of building lifelong connectedness to nature and natural history understanding into children's education experiences. Building a connection to nature at a young age means that you're more likely to protect it, and access to green space has been shown to have overwhelmingly positive impacts on the physical, mental and emotional well-being of young people. So just the primary and secondary schools in England cover an area of twice the size of Birmingham, and the school grounds are the land type where nature has been studied the least. So actually, by working together to help nature recover in schools, nurseries and colleges across the country, we've got a huge opportunity to make a profound positive change while supporting young people to develop vital green and STEM skills. So the Nature Park, or the National Education Nature Park itself, is a growing network space of schools, nurseries and colleges across England. So far, we have nearly 1,500 staff from 1,200 settings who've joined so far. So we're really excited about that. We're creating free learning resources and digital tools that support you to work with your learners to enable them to take the lead in improving their school site for people and for nature. The process has multiple benefits. This is a real scientific research carried out by you and your learners, with the information you collect making an important contribution to scientific understanding of the best ways to help nature and resulting in increasing biodiversity across England. Taking part can also support other goals your school might have for things like climate action plans, another strand of the Department of Education Sustainability and Climate Strategy. The network is visualised digitally and can be seen live on our homepage. As shown on the right here with the lovely twinkly lights, settings can add themselves to the map, and as they mark different habitats, species and improvements on the map, these are recorded and appear in real time, showing the collective difference that we're making. So it's important that we outline who it's for. The programme has been designed specifically for all settings and is particularly focused on adding green areas to grey spaces such as concrete playgrounds. In fact, these type of spaces have the potential to see the biggest nature gains. The programme has also been designed for spaces regardless of your size. Resources provided are suitable for educators no matter what their background is, and we have webinars and tutorials to guide you through the process. The growing resource library spans subject areas, developing green and digital skills, is interdisciplinary, and climate and nature are important to everyone's future. We've piloted all aspects of the programme with a variety of education settings to ensure it fits into the school day and it supports the delivery of lessons and the curriculum. We've designed the programme with all children and young people in mind, up to Key Stage 5. There are resources that span a few different ages, and there are also resources that are very specifically targeted to a particular key stage. So a reminder of the 5-step cycle. During our Pathfinder pilot phase over the past year, the programme has developed and tested with over 60 educational settings in different regions. It is purposefully flexible for you to use in your school or setting throughout the academic year, in different seasons at a time that suits you. The Nature Park works through a 5-step cycle. There are lots of activities in the resource library so that you have the option to choose the ones which work for your learners, your setting, and the time that you've got available. We hope that you can start integrating the Nature Park into your teaching in sustainable ways and build on this over time. So just trying one short activity is a really good starting point. Today, though, we are specifically going to talk about the curriculum resources that support learners to develop the necessary skills and knowledge to make real impact. To learn more about how to participate, there are webinar recordings on getting started and the habitat mapping process saved on our webinar page. Okay, so the Nature Park curriculum resources. The curriculum resources support an understanding of that inherent connection between climate change and biodiversity that we talked about before. They draw on current evidence-based climate education pedagogy, which Hina is going to talk a little bit more about in a second, and they're quality assured to ensure that the climate science is up to date and accurate. And we're really proud to say that we've worked really closely with the Royal Meteorological Society, the UK experts in weather and climate on this. And the verified resources are identified by the RMETSOC Quality Mark logo, which is shown here with a lovely purple tick. We've carefully selected resources that can be delivered through the current national curriculum. Initially, we focused on science, geography and citizenship teaching, with ideas introduced at developmentally appropriate points to support full understanding, and that's really important. There's a focus on substantive and disciplinary knowledge, and we know how important it is that children are really secure in their vocabulary, for example, to provide that foundation on which to understand these really complex concepts related to changes in climate and biodiversity. The resources embed green skills and behaviours that promote agency and a positive relationship with the natural world. So I'm now going to hand over to Hina, who is going to share how climate education can be embedded into the curriculum and how schools are already doing this. And maybe that's your school. Thanks, Hina.
Thank you, Amy. And it's really brilliant to be able to join you today. At CAPE, we have a really core vision, and I've shared this with you today to really take a step back. Before we think about implementing the National Education Nature Park, it's really important to think about why we are doing this and what our purpose is. And at CAPE, our purpose is to equip all children and young people to take climate action and protect the environment. And here we really want to think about and emphasise the word all. And by all, we mean that climate change and sustainability education should be equitable. It should be a right that every single child has and young person throughout the UK. And this is important because at the moment, it could be pockets of children or it could be pockets of classes that maybe have this empowerment. And so what the National Education Nature Park is enabling us to do and equipping us to do is to make sure that every child or young person in your setting has access to a really high quality climate change and sustainability education. So if we think a little bit more deeply now about why curriculum is important, Brunner in 1960 said a curriculum is more for teachers than it is for our students. If a curriculum cannot change, move, perturb and inform teachers, it will have no effect on those whom they teach. It must be first and foremost a curriculum for teachers. If it's going to have any effect on pupils, it will have it by virtue of having had an effect on teachers. And really, for me, what this quote shows and says is that the curriculum has to be meaningful and purposeful for teachers, and it needs to be engaged with and thought about, and a curriculum needs to be made before it has any hopes of having an impact on pupils and students in your settings. And therefore, as we go through today's session, just think about what additional support you need, what more information you could be seeking to really make sure that children and young people in your settings have a really high quality climate change and sustainability education. Now, in doing this at CAPE, we help teachers to think about 4 main principles, and I've shared them here. These principles are evidence informed, and we have had the absolute privilege of being supported by Mary Myatt as our patron here at CAPE in enabling us to develop these principles. And again, as you work through today's live session, really think about how it is that you can use the materials produced for the National Education Nature Park to think about how to make your curriculum coherent. And by that, it means how are you going to sequence the knowledge? How is the knowledge going to be different from somebody, a child or young person in year 1? All the way through to A-level. What does that sequence of learning look like? How do we avoid this really difficult thing that's happened where we sometimes teach the same 5 facts, but across every single year? So really, as Amy has said, what is the difference in the substantive and disciplinary knowledge? How are you going to make that curriculum aligned to what is already taught in your settings? You're going to be doing this already. You will already teach climate change. You will already talk about biodiversity. So how are you going to make this authentic to your setting? How are you going to make it already aligned to your schemes of work, the way that you plan your lessons, the way that you already deliver your lessons to your children and young people? And in doing so, you will make that curriculum authentic, as Amy has said, to your context. But it's really important that we think about how we make this principled. And by that, we mean, how do you make sure that your curriculum is accessed by every single child or young person in your setting? How do you make sure that it is assessed? How do you make sure that it is really high quality and actually is given the same level of priority as every other subject that you might teach in your setting? And finally, we argue that a really high quality curriculum in climate change and sustainability education should be enriching. And by that, we mean that it should be equitable. Every child or young person the curriculum should provide windows and mirrors so that children and young people can really see themselves represented in this curriculum. And so as you work through today's session and think about how to use the guidance and support and resources from the National Education Nature Park, really think about how you can implement these principles of curriculum, which will make sure that the climate change and sustainability education you're delivering really is high quality, but it more importantly reflects the needs of your teachers, of your pupils, and of your school community. Now, what does that mean in terms of an evidence framework for climate change and sustainability education? Now, whilst I haven't shared the depth of research behind this, this is an evidence-informed framework created by CAPE. We have created this by taking a systematic literature review of all of the meta-analyses, the systematic literature reviews that already exist, and the quasi-experimental studies. And what we find is that knowledge is a real foundation for a high quality curriculum. But as we know, and from a lot of research, especially by Ohala, the more knowledge you have sometimes, the more worried you can be about climate change or environmental issues. And therefore, this idea of self-regulation and really thinking about eco-anxiety becomes key. And actually, one of the ways in which we can help children and young people with their eco-anxiety is by creating brilliant opportunities for collective action. And this is where I feel that the National Education Nature Park is going to really support teachers in their settings. And for that, I'm going to, before I hand back over to Amy, what I will say is that if we just look at this very final quote from a teacher that we've been working with on Climate Wise Schools. As you think about the National Education Nature Park, think really closely about your vision for climate change and sustainability education in your setting. And I'm just going to read this out for you from one of our participants on our Climate Wise Schools Professional Development Programme, who says that in our commitment to climate change education, we will prioritise subject-specific skills, knowledge and pedagogies. Amy has already talked about that, ensuring a comprehensive learning experience for our children, from structured curriculum planning, which is something, again, that Amy's going to support you with today, to continuous professional development. Our aim is to equip children with knowledge, skills and attitudes to be informed global citizens, positively shaping the future of our planet. So please think about your vision for climate change and sustainability education as Amy takes you through the National Education Nature Park and curriculum. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Hina. I gave Hina 5 minutes to whistle stop through the evidence-based research, and you encapsulated that so brilliantly. Thank you, Hina. So, aligned with what Hina said, the Nature Park resources are evidence-based and action-orientated. So we've been working alongside Hina to ensure that we've got that evidence base. And we're influenced by the head, heart, hands model of transformative learning, which promotes that holistic approach to learning about climate change and biodiversity loss, drawing on that knowledge and skills from the curriculum, the head. Engagement through inquiry and action to make positive change, the hands, and enhancing that socio-emotional resilience capabilities of our learners, the heart, supporting their well-being and their mental health. The resources that we've created and curated draw on a range of pedagogical strategies that align with this approach. And I'm sure that many of you will be nodding your heads because you will already be using all of these pedagogical strategies. So using that outdoor learning environment as a resource, developing those critical and creative thinking skills, supporting that collaboration so learners are listening to each other, and a social justice approach, which again he talked about, to ensure that this approach is for all of our learners. So I'm now going to take you through a unit of learning. Our resources support curriculum learning outcomes and link to the wider National Education Nature Park programme. A unit of learning is 5 or 6 sessions, and so should fit within about half a term scheme of work. And while sessions follow this sequence, the sessions and the activities within them can also be woven into your own schemes of work, picked up and used in the way that makes sense to you, and being authentic, as Hina said. So firstly, we have sessions focusing on prior knowledge, and we know how important it is to ensure that we retrieve that prior knowledge. So starting with the learner's existing knowledge, as well as their experiences and their viewpoints on the topic to promote a social justice approach, and retrieving that knowledge and vocabulary that they can then build upon throughout the different sessions. We have then got the explore sessions that provide activities that develop key concepts and ideas. We have inquire sessions embedding opportunities for inquiry and investigation, including fieldwork, ensuring that learners can practice and develop inquiry skills that help them to become independent, curious learners and prepared for future work. We have making change sessions, modelling examples of how young people can work together with their peers and with others in their community collaboratively to make positive changes in different ways. And finally, we have communication sessions, providing opportunities for learners to share their findings, reflect on their feelings, and raise awareness of issues and ideas. Within each of these sessions, we've curated resources from lots of different organisations, some that you can see on the screen right now, for you to choose from, depending on your learners and setting. So we're going to share the Nature Park platform, and in the resource library of the website, you can search through the units of learning, currently available from EYFS to Key Stage 4. Obviously, EYFS units of learning look a little bit different because they're centred around continuous provision. A unit of learning in Key Stage 1 through to Key Stage 4 includes an overview of how the unit links to climate change and biodiversity in the introduction at the top. This is then followed by overviews and hyperlinks to each of the sessions which I talked about before. This one, for example, is an example from a GCSE biology focused unit. There is a section detailing national curriculum links, so you can see how the unit can be used to deliver the statutory requirements and obviously draw on those statutory requirements to build that understanding. We have identified common misconceptions that you can elicit and challenge in your teaching, age-appropriate vocabulary that learners can develop confidence in using, along with further opportunities and recommended books for independent reading. Many of those are recommended by the Book Trust. So you can see here that this is an example of a session from a Key Stage 2 science-focused unit. The design of our sessions includes a quick starter activity, promoting retrieval of prior knowledge and inclusion of learner voice. Some have been created by the Nature Park team, some have been provided by other organisations, and others are short videos that set the scene for critical thinking and discussion. The short starter activity is then followed by a selection of activities from different providers that you can choose from. So you can choose one of those. We've often pointed to activities that also are part of the Nature Park's 5-step process we showed earlier. And we hope that this helps to make it clear how participation in the Nature Park can align and integrate into statutory curriculum teaching and learning. And you can see that there's outdoor and indoor options too. Of course, you may wish to choose activities independent of the session to fit into your existing schemes of work. All of the activities from different providers have a link to their homepage, so you can actually explore all of their other wonderful resources that they have to offer beyond the links to the Nature Park. A key component of all of our curriculum resources is the opportunity to apply knowledge and skills to explore positive changes both as part of the Nature Park process and examples of how others are responding positively to the challenges of climate change and biodiversity loss. For example, this session that you can see here shares an activity based on strategies to protect vanishing frogs. So, as well as all of the resources that are on the website, we also have included a range of guidance to support educators to make the most of the resources and confidently teach about these issues. So we've included short summaries of significant reports, such as the IPCC AR6 report, the latest IPCC report, the Dasgupta review that we talked about earlier in the presentation, so that you can be confident about the information that you are sharing with your learners. And we've also included a range of other guides, such as how to use books to contextualise the nature park concepts, and how to use the nature park as a context for citizenship projects, for example, GCSE citizenship projects. And of course, we have to acknowledge that this is a growing platform of resources. So the resource library is continually developing as we write and collate resources that draw on important knowledge and skills from a wide range of subject areas, allowing learners to understand and respond to the climate and biodiversity crisis. We also are releasing focus sets of resources in line with key education events across the year, such as storytelling resources for World Book Day, which I'm really excited about, and further guidance and activities to support mental health and well-being for Children's Mental Health Week, which we know, as Hina said, is so important. So if you haven't already, and I'm sure that everybody here has, don't forget to register for the programme at educationnaturepark.org.uk and browse through the resources. Multiple staff or all of your staff in the same school, nursery or college in England can register. At the moment, anyone can access the resources and all the information without registering, and they're always going to be free to use. But there are benefits, extra benefits of registering. So for example, if you register, you'll be able to have your own dashboard so that you can keep track of the resources that you're using, and you'll be able to access the digital nature recording tools, which are fantastic. So thank you so much for taking the time today to join us. We hope that that gave you a flavour of some of the exciting resources that we can support you with. We hope you enjoy exploring and using these resources with your learners. And don't forget to keep that lovely poem from the start of today's session. So please look out for more webinars, videos and support on different topics in future on our website. Thank you, and thanks again to Hina as well for her contribution.